All right. Welcome to the Ultra High Net Worth Clients Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Broadhead. Today's incredible business founder guest is Scott Franklin. Scott, can you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Sure. My name's Scott Franklin. I'm the founder and CEO of Lumos Solar. We are specialists in architectural solar applications, um, really focused on overhead solar. So carports, canopies, awnings, anywhere solar can be used as a shade and weatherproof device.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
Awesome. You mentioned a title architectural solar applications. Can you help me understand
Yes,
what that means?
it's a great question.
Thank you.
Kind of occupy a very unique niche. The way I'll describe it is typically using a Venn diagram. But if you imagine a bubble where there's the solar industry as we think of it today, right? Solar panels, and everybody has it, evokes a lot of images of what solar means, right? There's also a bubble where we think of building products, facades, cladding systems, building materials. We're kind of where those two overlap. We produce solar power. We have very productive and efficient solar panels, but our products are also building products, building materials. So, for example, even the image behind me is an image of a carport we built for Porsche North America headquarters. Porsche doesn't want just any solar panels on their building or their facilities. They want something that looks great, works really well. So our features include concealed conductors, all the junction box electronics are hidden for aesthetic and functional reasons. Our features are also, our structures, are also weatherproof. So water's not dripping down in between them, include water management, lighting, things like that. So, we kind of take solar to a different place. And for clients like Porsche or a lot of our commercial clients, they're looking for really durable infrastructure that kind of meets the kind of architecture and facilities that those parts are going into.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And how did you get into this industry and decide on what aspect you would focus on?
Good question. So
Thank you.
my background is in rock climbing. I was a professional rock climber for many years and on the whole adult life. And really back in 2005, 2006, kind of had I wouldn't quite say existential crisis, but I was really kind of wondering what I was going to do with my life. I had two young kids at home, and I was working in the solar industry. I'm sorry, excuse me, the climbing industry, making carabiners and, equipment as a designer, and had a great business doing that. But was looking around the world around me and saying, well, what can I do to help, not solve the world's problems by any means, but at least feel like I was like pushing in the right direction. And I could tell my kids, hey, this is what I do every day when I'm at work or traveling. And so I kind of did this reverse engineering exercise to think, what can I do with my skill, my experience, my motivation? And long story short, kind of got into deciding to do solar structures. Actually, my first idea was to build prefab structures with solar on them, um, and sell those for disaster relief, remote ski, hunting lodges, cabins, something like that. And I went out and built a prototype for that. And through that longer winding road, of course, I never ended up building those products, and eventually made my way to what we do today, which is, really design differentiated solar solutions. So we've kind of found our niche because of being, I'd say, our greatest strength is flexibility. We've been in this business from 2006. So it's quite old for a solar company in the US.
Before it was cool.
Definitely before it was cool. It was really not started for, the reason we're just trying to do something in the space. And we kind of navigated to find a way to differentiate. That's been our kind of unique angle, is trying to solve problems that are out there, not trying to solve them with necessarily capital, because they didn't have big capital. It was really around design solutions. And that's really what the business is driven by.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Um, so I guess as you were evolving the company, did did you have an idea where you wanted to go, and then you obviously interacted with the market, and how did you sort of arrive here today, where you're
Sure.
making these designs?
Yeah, well, I think we started trying to figure out where can we add value, right? And just doing
Hmm.
rooftop solar and the kind of commodity business that's really led to some of the spectacular bankruptcies we've seen. Or it's price driven business, right? If it's price driven and you're competing on price, it always ends up at the bottom, and that's why you see these string of multi-billion-dollar bankruptcies for many years. And really my approach especially has been very much trying to solve, you know, technical problems. How do we build things that work better, look better, increase the experience of our customers, solve real problems, right? And so really, I think what I was responding to is like the pushback you get from the market. For example, we're primarily in the residential space, and high-end clients with beautiful homes. The reaction was, I don't want that on my roof. Look at my house. I just spent, this huge effort to design and build this, fantastic structure that's super well studied and really thought through. And then we just slap some rectangular electronic, aluminum box on the roof. That's not going to happen. We're just not going to do that. And so I was trying to solve the problem. How do we make solar accessible and also desirable, right? Because there's a lot of motivation. People want to do it, but we're not just going to put some random thing on a roof. And then through that kind of thought process, trying to find ways to overcome those objections, right? How do we really, the original mission for Lumos has always been, how do we facilitate solar becoming a mainstream source of energy? That was really my goal. That's still the goal. Is how do we make it accessible, desirable, approachable? So whether you're doing a high-end home or a corporate headquarters or an entryway canopy for a stadium, university, or other, you're trying to build infrastructure that kind of enhances the environment, enhances the experience of the users. And that kind of thought process was, that's what people want to do. They don't want to put anything up there. They want to, yeah, we want solar power, but it has to look great. It has to work really well. It has to last. Can't be made out of junky materials, to keep the
Hmm.
cost down. So that's kind of how we evolved our model into what it is today. The most durable products out there. We build the strongest solar panels in the market. Everything we do is really built to last um,
Hmm.
for public infrastructure.
Awesome. And do you work predominantly with residential or commercial or both?
We're like 95% commercial business.
Okay,
We certainly
got it.
have high-end residential clients. We have some new products that are much more approachable for the residential space. But our biggest focus is on commercial projects. And we
Hmm.
primarily work with architects and building owners, facility managers, getting spec'd into their projects, and we supply them.
Hmm. Awesome. So, is every project different?
Very good question. Yeah.
Thank you.
In a large, for the most part, yes. So we have some modular solutions. We don't do custom, bespoke products, but we have bespoke solutions, and we use our modular building blocks. For example, we make several specific solar panel types, some different structural systems, but it's more like a kit of Legos, if you will, right? We don't design new Lego parts every time. We have a whole range of Lego shapes,
Uh,
the block, the two block, et cetera.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
we can configure different solutions. So we're not in the extremely rarefied price category of custom solar, but we're not, commodity Chinese, just generic stuff. So we occupy a different space. So we can give very tailored, very customized solutions using modular components. But your question's good because every product is unique, right? Again, use the example behind me. So there's site conditions, right? Horse says, I've got this area I want to cover with solar. So we have to design a solution for that particular location. We do this year, actually, we're launching some new products, kind of going back to your question about residential, that are kitted. They're pre-configured, pre-engineered, prefabricated, you can get it. The choices are black, white, or gray. It comes in a certain size. It's a 1 or 2 car carport, that kind of product. So they're kitted in the sense that you don't get to redesign it and modify it. So there's no additional design work done to keep the cost down.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Got
For the
it.
most part,
Got it.
everything's kind of per project.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Um, is there sort of a common solution that a lot of commercial clients want? Or is it a situation where you're kind of like assessing what they have and what they want and offering sort of a best solution?
I think, by and large, the clients that come to us, whether they're architects and users, whoever kind of finds their way to Lumos, we're known for, again, this kind of overhead solar. And I use that term because it really captures, there's a range of solutions overhead, meaning solar panels are the roof. So our panels are always on top, they create the roof. We don't put them on rooftops. So people come to us when they want shade and solar. And, that interface, that intersection is super interesting, right? That is where you need shade the most is also where you produce the most solar panel power, right? Because it's the sunniest.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a perfect fit. So when the other reason people come to us is they want to show it off. So you can see, you don't have to have a sign out front saying we have solar. People walk up to it and go, oh, that's obviously solar panels. How cool is that? Looks very technical and very modern. So those are the kind of clients that will be coming to us. They want to show it off. They want to look great, modern, be super functional, but they need shade.
Mm-hmm.
And, shades is, I think, an increasingly valuable commodity. It's a classic case of something that's sort of taken for granted, less and less, especially, for us, we think of the southern tier of the U.S., from Florida to across the U.S. to Southern California, the deserts, of the West. It's super hot. You park your car out in a Target parking lot for an hour in Phoenix, the middle of summer, you come back, it's 150 degrees in the car. It's a real problem. So shade is valuable. It's not just like it's moving from like kind of a vitamin solution to like a tourniquet solution, like you actually need it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, yeah. Is it only feasible and does it only make sense to have these installations in very sunny places or, Northeast, Midwest? Does it make sense to have it up there as well?
absolutely. Solar works everywhere. I know it's changed a little bit over the years, but Germany is one of the world's largest solar markets. Germany has the same kind of amount of irradiance or sunshine as Alaska. It's a gray place by and large, but it still works. And so solar is super productive. Yeah, southern markets like, again, Southern California, Arizona, Texas, Florida, et cetera, it's super productive. Plus shade is much more valuable, but Massachusetts, New York, Michigan, Seattle, Portland, they all work. They're super productive. Different benefits, right? In the Northwest and Northeast, people use our structures for rain protection and shade. So not just for the solar, right? It's a bummer when you get in your car to go to work and then you get rained on trying to get into the, to the headquarters entrance, right? So it's nice to have covered walkways, for example, made out of solar panels. So they're productive and you get a real benefit of like you have covered areas. So you reduce the cost of snow removal, et cetera. The Southwest, shade's super valuable because it's super freaking hot. So it works lots of ways.
Yeah, yeah. Awesome. So, with developing technology, all this AI, large language model, like massive GPU, electricity needs, it seems like the biggest bottleneck here is power. Like we just don't have enough power. Like we have all the GPUs in the universe, but we're like, oh, we got to build nuclear power plants to power them. is it feasible, or is there a way that solar could supply, some or even the majority of this upcoming power bottleneck?
I think the answer is absolutely yes. There's no question about it. Our particular focus is again on solar carports. If we covered, take away, the AI giant demand for a second, just today, if you covered the available parking areas in the US, just the parking areas, forget about the open spaces, forget about the utility scale projects, across the desert Southwest. If you just covered parking areas with solar carports, we produce more than enough energy to cover the entire demand in the United States. No problem.
Wow.
100%. So, I think the simple answer is yes. Like we have between carports and then you go to rooftop solar. Well, is an incredible untapped opportunity here. The bottlenecks have nothing to do with technology. They're all administrative bureaucratic issues. The bottom line is you just have, you have an entrenched oil and gas lobby. This United States operates on oil and gas. That's the fundamental currency that we operate on. It's underpinning of everything. And until something shifts there and we have a more of a public benefit focus and long-term thinking, you're not going to see that change.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I think nuclear is complete fantasy.
Yeah.
Nuclear it's not deployable. The problem is it takes too long and it's too expensive. So it looks great on paper, but the fact of the matter is just to put those into service, they're not going to be powering ChatGPT anytime soon. So it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. So in business terms, how do you find, how does Lumos find clients?
And that's a big topic for us. We're the most sort of under the radar solar company probably on the planet. We have zero outbound sales effort, all word of mouth, all kind of through our networks. We joke that we use the kind of Venus flytrap model. We just sit here slowly, and when people come to us, we eventually kind of close on them. But really what we do is we're education. We have no outbound sales force. So what we do is we do lunch and learn for architects. We work educating people about our solutions. That's how people come to us, though. We don't chase them down.
Yeah. Well, you do exceptional and beautiful work.
Thanks. Yeah, I think our portfolio is what really speaks for us, right? People, the way it works, they say, "Oh, I saw this project, or I saw that. That's why I found you," and it's the best calling card. It's not like some rendering or something that we could do or aspirational. We love to be able to say, when they say, "Hey, I want to do an airport entrance," and we say, "You mean like this one or like this one?" And we can give them the actual project and go, "Wow, oh, I saw that. Didn't realize that was you guys." So it's very cool.
Yeah.
Kind of a portfolio.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay. What are the biggest opportunities in the solar industry right now?
Well, we're super focused and sort of biased to the distributed generation side. I think it's the low-hanging fruit. It's the places where we should be putting solar in. I don't think we need to be using big open spaces and dealing with transmission lines. I think it's like pulling to the older models. I think we should be focusing towards the distributed, localized source of energy. So carports, canopies, awnings on existing buildings to improve the experience, lower utility bills, lower heating, cooling requirements, improve experience. So I think that's a big opportunity. And then deploying solar, the beauty of the solar, by the way, is it's the only power generation source that works everywhere it's deployed, right? A windmill only works where there's wind, right? They're out somewhere far away in the desert. To get the power from there to where you use it, that's the challenge. Offshore wind is great, but it's offshore, right? You have massive lines to get that power back to shore. Solar, you could put a solar panel. We do, for example, solar power charging picnic tables. They produce power right there. We have batteries in the system that are deployed in colleges and campuses all around. They produce power right there. There's no power lines. There's no nothing. So solar can be produced and used right where it's made, everywhere in the country. And that's the biggest opportunity. So things like really focused on bus stops, bus shelters, having lighting and things like that, basic amenities that we sort of take for granted, but having a well-lit bus stop is really valuable in urban environments. It's safer, it's easier to see, it's a lot of benefit, but getting power to a bus shelter can be quite challenging. With solar, it's super easy. So those kind of examples are really interesting. I think putting solar where you need power is the greatest opportunity. EV charging is another good example. People are more and more demand for EV cars that's going to just keep growing. The connection of using solar to power the car is like, people understand that. There's no new pump. The beauty of solar is like, it is the source of energy. It's going straight into the car. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Awesome. Okay. So my final question is an open-ended question. You can take it in any direction that you like. And that question is, what are you working towards?
It's a great question.
Thank you.
I think what we're working towards is just, greater adoption, right? Like I said, that's the mission of this company. We want to see solar deployed where it could be used and used in every opportunity it can be. And I think there are so many cases across the US, which is where we're focused, and North America, that solar is the perfect application, but it's not being used. And it's not for technical reasons. Again, it's for bureaucratic, administrative, hurdles that are artificial barriers. And I think trying to gently push those barriers down and have solar kind of realize its opportunity and potential is our interest. It's really, it's very underutilized right now. So
yeah,
helping it be all that it can be is really our goal.
Yeah. Well, I think in installing it in such a, beautiful, sort of easy on the eyes manner and showing how easy it is to use and benefit from, and, getting shade and energy, I think that is going a long way. So that's great.
I agree. I'm glad you feel that way. That's our theory. That's the theory.
Yeah, that's great, man. I really respect and appreciate that. Someone who also loves this earth and wants it to be around.
It's all we got, right? There's no way.
Yeah.
There's no later. It's like, this is it. So we got
Yep.
it. So it's not for us, for our kids and their kids.
Yeah. Yep. Awesome. Cool. Where can my audience find out more about you and everything you and the team are working?
Well, our website's the greatest resource for us. Lumossolar.com is the best place to find everything in Lumos. We've got some great product spotlights, kind of talking about unique projects and kind of case studies. See our products, projects. It's a great way to reach out to us.
Awesome. We will link to that in the show notes. Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. I really enjoyed getting to know you. You have an incredible story. You just love mountain climbing. You're an exceptional mountain climber. You're like, how can I make it so more people get to enjoy mountain climbing?
Absolutely. Exactly.
Oh, that's a beautiful thing, man. And I am thankful there's folks like you in the world,
Thanks.
doing everything they can do, extend all of our enjoyment of it. So, awesome. Thanks again for coming. To all our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in, and keep on growing out there, everybody.